Well, so I'm using my phone here, Just, I'm not going through the entirety of this article, I mean, the Daily Mail has a tendency to sort of, well, ironically, do exactly what I tend to do from time to time, and that's just ramble on for far too long. I did, admittedly try to find a video resource to this as opposed to going through the article, but alas, I have not been able to find it. If there is one out there, it'd be nice if somebody could direct me in that direction. However, I have not found it. I thought I'd just give people a wee tiny update here, on something just brief, tiny wee segue. So, obviously, it's no secret. Well, it is sort of, but I've got a fucking ankle tag on, right? And I finally passed my CSCS test to get back on the building sites, right? And I explicitly spoke to this boy from the agency on Monday, and I said to him that I have to be home, insert time, so preferably I would have to be in a job in and around the Inverness area so I can be home for insert time. And he then he phones me up today offering me a job in Dornoch. Right. Now, for anybody that's unfamiliar with the territory of the Highlands, right, Dornoch on a good day is about 45 to, dare I say, an hour away, right? And that's when you're driving to Dornoch in the fucking morning, okay? It's another thing entirely when you're coming home at night, you know? I used to work in Dornoch several years ago, and it was sort of standard procedure that we would get home really late, just due to the sheer amount of traffic that was heading back to Inverness and the surrounding areas. But this is just where we're at now with agency work. I am so sick of agency work, sick of the building sites. I can't wait until I get some points off my license so I can just change career. And I use that word lightly. But regardless, I have rambled for far too long. And again, it goes back to my aforementioned mention of irony. But Q Camp Stewart, Pakistani born, living in Scotland, and she reaffirmed something I've said so often, especially so in the last several months, because it's becoming more and more of a talking point from these politicians. Not to suggest that it hasn't been in the past, but they're really they're really going hell to leather in recent months to validate my point, for lack of better terminology. SNP minister demands higher immigration to Scotland as she urges PM to help Holyrood tackle country's ageing population. So we're not going to go through the entirety of this, as I say, right? But just this wee brief bit here, first and foremost. An SNP minister today, right? And as I say, this was a couple of days ago, and I could not find anything on it in terms of videos. Demanded changes to the immigration system to allow more people to come to Scotland to counter the country's aging population. Now, this is what I'm talking. How, like, why is the penny going to drop for some people? I mean, I know that 99% of people don't pay attention to the news and whatnot, but that in and of itself is an issue, because then this sort of bullshit can kind of go under the radar, metaphorically speaking. But regardless, for those that do pay attention, right, regardless of which side of the fence you sit on, politically speaking, lefty, righty, SNP guy, Labour guy, Tory guy, whatever you may be, how can you not see what they are fucking saying here, right? It's not some far right conspiracy theory. To point out what they are saying, read between the lines. And in fact, at this point, you don't actually need to read between the lines, because it goes on to say, just down here, it comes after figures released by the National Records of Scotland showed 11,000 plus children were born between January and March of this year, right? And here we go. This is the Daily Mail doing its annoying shit. Okay. This was 3.9% lower than the average for the first quarter of the year. In the same period, the number of deaths was also lower than expected, with 16,000 plus recorded. This was 7.7% lower than the 18,000 plus deaths anticipated in the first quarter. Ms. Stewart said the latest statistics highlight that what we already know, that without migration, Scotland's working age population will fall as deaths continue to outnumber births. Okay, read between the lines. Read between the working age population. They can dress it up any way they want. The ethnic Scottish people, or even in a larger sense, the Britons, they're dying out, mathematically speaking, because they're not having enough children to sort of replicate the generations gone by, right? They sort of masquerade what they're talking about here by calling us the working age population. Fuck off. Like, it's an insult to the intelligence, if nothing else. But it's actually quite frightening. Because I mean, the future is not set in stone, but the future, if we continue on this current trajectory, it's pretty self-explanatory where we're headed. And these people are just coming out and saying it time and time and time and time again, but they sort of dress it up and, disguise it, masquerade it as different. Oh, working age population, oh, my GDP. Positive net migration is essential for supporting the size of the working age population in Scotland, which is crucial for economic GDP, public service planning, and community cohesion. Oh yeah, community cohesion. That's what we need. There's not enough people being born in that community. Let's support people. Fuck off. Right, and then he goes on about Keir Starmer. I'm not interested. He's a Brian Badundy, right? But then they go on to show you that the figures released by the National Records of Scotland showed 11,000 plus children were born. This was 3.9% lower than the average for the first quarter. I mean, it's just a downward trajectory. Record low births, record high abortions, right? Excess deaths, questionable most of the time. Families are just not being created. But deaths are outnumbering births. And our government's solution, time and time and time again, is to simply bang on about opening those borders, spreading those pictures back. No, I'm not even saying that. We need talented and committed people from across the world to live, work, and study here without excessive barriers, she added. A one-size-fits-all approach to immigration fails to meet the needs of Scotland and much of the UK. What about us? Do we get a say? We need talented and committed people from across the world to live. Why? What about us? What happens to us? What happens to Scotland? But it's just a conspiracy, folks. Of course it is. Food for thought, eh?